In 2016, I released book 2 in my Nightblood series, Sweet Last Drop. This is the book where Cassidy visits Walker in upstate New York. He is the only other person that she knows who is a Nightblood and understands all of the risks and the secrets of knowing that vampires actually exist. Except when she gets up to upstate New York to visit him, she finds out that he actually has several pretty big secrets of his own. So let's get into it. I'm giving you a reading from Sweet Last Drop. The bus ride from the Big Apple to Erin, New York, gradually descended from the metropolitan area to suburbs, from suburbs to woodsy small towns, and then to nothing but fields and sheds and, of course, cows. I'd never seen so many cows in my life. Considering I'd never actually seen a cow in person, I suppose that wasn't much of a statement, but it certainly seemed like Erin had an overabundance of them. Their mooing reminded me of Dominic's nightblood and hamburger metaphor when he described how my blood tasted. "You are a rare dish," he'd said, and I'd been terrified by his attraction. I was still terrified of Dominic, attraction or not, but terror could only hold so much immediacy for so long, especially when the object of my terror was being relatively civil. Despite his consuming responsibilities as master vampire of New York City, Dominic had found time to visit me on numerous occasions at the hospital while I recovered from our battle against the rebel vampires. He visited me at home once I'd been released from the hospital. He visited me in the office when I returned to work and outside the office at every starlit opportunity. When he came calling, he was always fully fed, completely gorgeous, and the ultimate gentleman. I knew better than to believe the illusion. In his infinite patience, I think Dominic was biding his time, and I suspected it had everything to do with this very road trip to Erin, New York, Ian Walker's hometown and the resting place of Erin's abundantly powerful Coven master, Bex. Dominic's leveling was approaching in 2 short weeks, and he'd need all the power and allies at his back as possible to survive the one night he'd be as weak and vulnerable to death as any human. Dominic, however, wasn't the only man in my life with ulterior motives, although Ian Walker had been decidedly less patient for this visit. "I can't wait to see you, darling," Walker had said at least once per conversation during the daily phone calls we'd enjoyed for the past 3 weeks. "I miss you." Walker's voice had deepened salaciously, reminding me of that one night in my office. He'd lifted me onto my desk, and his strong hands had touched me in places I'd never thought I could feel again. I would have found his persistence coming from someone else nauseating. But between all the darlings and ma'ams, we shared an indelible bond that went beyond incorrigible flirtation. Walker and I were 2 of the rare humans who had nightblood, a hereditary gene necessary to complete the transformation into a vampire. But just because I had the potential to become a vampire didn't mean I wanted to become one. That was a main point of contention between Dominic and me, albeit one of our more vehement disagreements. Walker, on the other hand, understood and shared my opinion on the matter. He was the only person who could relate to the danger of living with the knowledge that vampires existed. Despite everything we had in common, I remained skeptical of both Walker and my feelings for him. We'd only physically known each other for 1 week. How well could I legitimately come to know a person in such a short time? But when I looked back at the week we'd shared and survived, I swallowed my doubts and forced myself to say the words because they were true. "I miss you too." And now, after 3 weeks of nothing but phone time with Walker, I had finally arrived in Erin, New York, for what should have been a vacation from all those demons back in the city. Less than 24 hours into our reunion, however, and Walker and I weren't any closer to putting the moves on each other. He'd barely had time to give me a proper tour of the town before we were once again staring at a body. I hope you pick up Sweet Last Drop and enjoy every moment.